Hi folks, my name is Ross from Mountaineering Scotland and I'm with Dr. Naomi Dodds, and we're going to talk about the importance of looking after yourself in the mountain on hot sunny days, and we've got a glorious sunny day today to talk about those sort of things. So Naomi is a doctor and she's also in a mountain rescue team. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a doctor. I specialise in anaesthetics, and I'm a doctor in the Aberdeen Mountain Rescue Team, but also work as an international mountain leader, leading expeditions overseas in very hot places, a little bit warmer than Scotland.
So we've been walking up the hill for half an hour now, and I'm a bit hot and sweaty. I was just wondering if you could kind of explain what's happening within my body that's going to keep me at a normal temperature.
Yeah, sure. So our bodies regulate our body temperature, and they do this in lots of different ways. So one of the first things they'll start to do is you'll sweat a little bit more, which is what we're doing a little bit here. And that helps because evaporation, taking that moisture away from the skin, will help cool our bodies down. Also, our blood vessels, they dilate a little bit, and that means that more of the heat can then leave as the blood vessels will be close to the skin. So it diverts all that blood from our kind of main organs like our heart and our lungs and our liver, and brings it all to the skin to help cool us down.
Is that why we get kind of swollen hands and feet on hot days and things?
Yeah, so that will explain some of that we see, yes, yeah. Also, our bodies regulate in terms of electrolytes, so it will mean that we're sweating, but over time we'll sweat less salt to try and help in terms of that. And also as we're breathing, we're losing heat as well, so we'll breathe a little bit faster when we're in hotter climates.
Cool. So that's what's happening or should be happening to us at the moment.
Yeah.
So the term heat illnesses, what's going on there? What happens when things start going wrong?
Yeah, so heat illness is quite a broad term, and it encompasses a lot of different illnesses within it, all of which relate to how our bodies become unable to regulate to the warmer weather. And it encompasses stuff like heat cramps, heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
So Naomi, you talked about heat exhaustion and heat stroke, and I was wondering if you could explain the difference, please.
Yeah, sure. So both of these are on a continuum of severity, so they're both heat-related illnesses. So heat exhaustion would normally occur first, and then at the severe end you'd get heat stroke. Heat stroke would be a medical emergency, so that's when you would want to think about calling 999 and getting mountain rescue if you're in the hills.
And could you explain what the difference is, like mechanically or internally, to those things? What's happening at sort of body level?
Yeah, sure. So as we start to warm up, so we start with things like an electrolyte imbalance, and that will give us things like heat cramps. That progresses on to heat exhaustion, and that occurs when the blood is being diverted to our skin to try and cool us down, and therefore not getting to our vital organs. And then as that blood is unable to reach the vital organs, we start to get damage to the cells in our body, and that's what heat stroke is. And it's kind of more of an inflammatory reaction that can be very serious if not treated and picked up on quickly.
Brilliant. So it's almost that the body is dying very slowly because it's not getting what it needs.
That's right, yes, yeah.
Sounds awful.
Yes, yeah, terrible.
So one of the top tips is to stay hydrated. How much water or juice do we need to aim for? Is there a certain amount that we should be aiming for?
Yeah, so there's not kind of a fixed number. It will be different for everyone depending on how hot it is, how much we're sweating, and how humid it is. But a good amount that you're not feeling thirsty and your pee is a kind of pale yellow colour would be adequate amounts.
Brilliant. So not sort of downing 6 litres of water. Is that a bad idea?
Yeah, so it's good just to keep sipping water throughout the day in kind of smaller amounts. And it's not just water we need, we also need some salt. So we can add in things like electrolyte sachets or sports drinks as well.
Brilliant. And does this salt have to come from the liquid, or can we eat things with salty things in it, like crisps and nuts and stuff? Does that work as well?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So eating things with salt in, like you said, like having some nuts on the hill or some crisps can be really useful. And also we can take water from our food as well. So things like watermelon will have water in.
So the other one is dress appropriately. Now, we're not talking about a night out in Glasgow. So when we're walking in the hills on hot sunny days, what do we mean by dress appropriately, and why does it matter?
So dressing appropriately would mean wearing quite loose-fitting, lightweight clothing, ideally covering as much skin as possible to protect us from the UV rays. Also wearing things like hats, like we've both got on today, that provide some shade to our faces and our head and neck.
So what sort of planning things can we do to try and avoid going into heat problems?
So some of the things we could do is consider maybe heading out early in the day to try and avoid that main heat between 11 and 3 p.m. We could also think about our route choice. So it might be that we go next to streams or water that we can cool down with. Also that there's shadier areas, maybe taking a slightly shadier route, and particularly when we're stopping for, say, lunch, we want to make sure that we're stopping in a shaded spot. The other things that we could factor into our plan would be making sure that it's not too strenuous, so we might alter our plans, maybe do a gentler day just because of the heat.
So getting up early, trying to stay to shaded areas, ideally near water, and if there's a breeze going, go for that. So it's also important to know your limits. What do we mean by know your limits? What are the limiting factors?
In the heat, we want to make sure we're not overexerting ourselves. So it might be that we're just walking at a slower pace, maybe taking more regular stops than we would normally do when we're walking in the mountains.
Is there anything between different people that might affect those sort of limits? Is like age or anything like that important?
So young and old people are more at risk of heat illness, and that's just due to the thermoregulation because they're not as good as regulating their own body temperatures. People with underlying medical conditions, so things like heart problems or any other electrolyte issues.
What about is there certain medications that people have got to be worried about if they're on medications for heart problems or anything like that?
Yeah, so some heart medication will not allow the body to acclimatise as well because they slow the heart rate down, and also they might try and get rid of fluid from the body, and that can make people more dehydrated. So those medications we'd be particularly concerned about.
And what about the menstrual cycle? Does that have an effect on heat?
Yeah, it does. So as hormones are released at different times throughout the month, that raises the body temperature, so putting people at more at risk of heat illness.
Okay, it's good knowledge. Thank you. So what are the major risk factors from a kind of a personal point of view?
So other risk factors might include general fitness. So the less fit you are, the more your body is going to have to overexert and the body temperature is going to get higher and you're going to be unable to regulate that. Also having more body fat will mean that your blood vessels are further away from the skin and therefore your body can't cool itself down as well. Things to avoid would be things like caffeine. Also alcohol can make us more dehydrated. So maybe if you've been out the night before, then going on the hill on a hot day is going to mean you're more dehydrated and more at risk of heat illness.
Right. Is there anything we can do to acclimatise? Like, how does acclimatizing work?
Yeah, so our bodies do acclimatise over time. A bit like altitude, we can acclimatise to the heat. And so over time, we begin to sweat a little bit more, which helps with evaporation. It means that we sweat less salt, which means that those electrolyte imbalances don't occur. And we get better at getting rid of the heat. So our bodies just get better over time. And that doesn't need to be a long period of time. That can happen over a week or two, just by spending a couple of hours a day at a higher temperature.
Brilliant. So it's just about the body getting more efficient at doing the things it needs to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we've kind of talked about how to stop these things happening, but if things were to start going wrong, what sort of things do we need to look out for? So the signs and symptoms, and then I suppose we need to talk about what we can do to try and reverse that. So let's start with the signs and symptoms of things going wrong. What happens first?
Yeah, so some of the first things that might happen is that you'll start to feel thirsty. You might start to feel a bit tired, maybe develop a headache. So those would be all early signs of heat illness. That can progress on to things like muscle cramps, feeling quite faint, and the more severe end would be things like collapsing, seizures, and a low conscious level. And nausea and vomiting can present as well at any of those stages.
Oh wow, so pretty serious stuff when you get to the end there. So let's take, I'm walking up the hill, I've maybe got really hot and sweaty, but I maybe stopped sweating, I'm feeling really thirsty, and my pee's gone really yellow, and I'm starting to get cramp in probably the big muscles in my legs. At that point, what do I need to do? What sort of things can I do to stop progressing into the scary stuff?
So first of all would be to find some shaded area like the one that we're in, so using the shade of the mountain or maybe a forestry area, so get out of that direct heat. And then start to cool yourself down, so taking off any extra layers that you might have on, cooling yourself down with any water. And so it might be from a very shallow stream, or maybe water that you're carrying for drinking water. And what we can do is we can just put that over, so it might be that you can wet a hat, you can wet your t-shirt, and that will all help that evaporation and cooling the body down. We can also, if you've got anything cold, we can put those near the big blood vessels, so neck, armpits and groin, and that will help cool us down as well.
So I presume just making sure you're taking all those liquids on as well is another good thing to do. Making sure that you've got the salts and things.
So keep sipping that water, adding in electrolytes, so you get sachets that you can add into your drinks, so that would be a really good thing to do if you thought someone had heat illness.
Brilliant. And if that still wasn't enough and you're still really struggling, or maybe symptoms are getting worse, what should we do then?
So if things aren't improving, then that's when you need to seek medical help. So in the mountains, that might be calling mountain rescue.
And as we talk about, that is calling 999 or 112, asking for the police, that's important, and then asking for mountain rescue, being able to give a location and all those other bits of information.
Yeah.